Welcome back, rum fans. My name's Steve the Barman, and I'm just here to help you on your rum journey by mainly focusing on rums and from time to time spiced rums and flavoured rums, but mainly proper rums under £50 in the UK, whatever that roughly translates to around the world in your own currencies of choice, but £50 here in the UK. Today, I've got this little bad boy. It's been a favourite of mine for years and years and years. Pampero Aniversario. Let's get it naked. Let's get it out of its sexy little sack. There we go. That's what it looks like. Pampero Aniversario. Now, why have I decided to do this one? Because it's one of those that I keep forgetting about, and I kind of wanted to revisit it. Just keep it out of the bowl. I kind of want to revisit and taste it because this used to be a really firm favourite of mine, but my palate is starting to dry out a little bit, and that just gives you a nod to what's coming. It is a slightly sweeter rum, Solera aged rum, but we'll get into all that in a second. So as always with these new type of videos that I'm rocking out, we're going to be doing a tasting, I'm nosing and tell you what I get from it. We've also got the mixer taste, the cocktail taste, so Coke, ginger ale, Daiquiri, rum fashion and rum punch. I'm going to give you what other people have picked up as well, just to kind of give you that overriding sort of theme around the rum, if you like. So let's talk about this Pampero Aniversario Venezuelan rum. Some people, I've seen this kind of classed as a 25-year-old rum. No, it's really not. Again, it's another one. It's like the Plantation XO. People associate that with the 20-year-old rum. No, that was created to commemorate 20 years of Alexandra Gabriel being a master blender for 20 years. This is the same. This is a 25-year anniversary rum of the Pampero Distillery. Not got an exact date. I've kind of got 1963 in my head, but definitely 60s. So this rum has been around for a very, very long time. Why is it one of those rums that this was in my first collection of sipping rums, along with like El Dorado 12-year-old. The simple answer to that is been imported by Diageo for donkey's years. Diageo, Smirnoff, Gordon's, Captain Morgan's, Bullet, Bourbon and all that. Jose Cuervo Tequila. Most pubs and bars would have had some form of deal with Diageo or stock some of their products. So really easy to get Pampero products. For me, in the early days of my bar, it was the premium upgrade from your kind of like your Bacardis and that sort of stuff. I did have the Pampero Blanco, I did have the Pampero, I forget what it's called now, but the kind of normal Pampero aged one with the sort of yellow label and red wine, and this was the kind of premium sipper because of Diageo. So it's been around, you know, a very, very long time. It is Solera aged, and I just want to touch on this for a second as well. I've got a certain, now this is bearing in mind, when I grew up, like in the early years of my career, there was no education. There was absolutely no one really about to talk about rums. The big player was Mimi Sanchez, Havana, Pernod Ricard. She was like the global rum ambassador for Havana, and she used to do a lot of education, but there were the others, you just never knew, never heard of them. So there was no education that. We knew all about Havana and nothing else. So the one time there was a little bit of education about this, I seem to remember being told that this was a blend of 3, 6, and I've got maybe 8-year-old rums in here. Now, the point I want to touch on, I've seen a few other rum bloggers, rum reviewers say that there is a 12-year-old rum in here. It's obviously possible, bearing in mind this was released for 25 years at the distillery, it's obviously possible, the maths do work. However, in pure business economics, I think a 12-year-old rum for a business that's 25 years old, I think is a touch too far. You have to go back to that day and age where rum is not a premium commodity. There isn't much rum being sold on a worldwide market. So will they have had the money and the investment? Will they have been able to invest their own rum just to lay it down and forget about it for 12 years without selling it? I don't think so. Don't hold me to that. I'm not the authority in that, but I think that's a stretch too far. You're talking, I mean, just to talk about Two Drifters in the UK, you know, this is being released this week at the time of filming. It's taken them 3 years to get to a 1-year-old rum, and even then they've not got massive stocks to it. You know, so to get them up to a 5-year-old rum probably won't take them 5 years. It'll probably take them a lot longer because they won't have that money, unless they really do well, to reinvest and just keep laying down and forgetting about rum. You just can't do that as a business. So for a 12-year-old rum in a 25-year, after 25 years of being in business, bear in mind the first sort of 5, 6 years of that are going to be finding their feet. I think that's a stretch. Don't hold me to that. I don't know, but I just think that's a stretch in pure business economics. Anyway, let's get back to the rum. The other kind of little point I want to add to this as well. I've got a sneaky suspicion that this was bottled in Italy. Now, I don't hold me to that. I don't even know whether it's still a practice. The only thing I can kind of get my head around with that is it may have been cheaper to tank it over to, or barrel it over to Italy and bottle it here for a UK market, as opposed to bottle it in Venezuela and then ship bottles. It may have just been cheaper that way around. I don't know. I don't know whether it's still bottled in Italy, but I know it kind of was bottled in Italy. I'm pretty sure, 99% sure it was bottled in Italy at some point, or if it still is. So what else can I tell you about it? As I say, column still rum, molasses based, Solera aged. Go and Google, if you want to know what Solera aged is, go and Google it. The best way to kind of describe it, you've got 3 rows of barrels. The barrels could be anywhere. They could be in even separate warehouses, but the best way to describe it, 3 layers of barrels. You take your rum, your finished product from the bottom barrel. So when that needs topping up, you top up from the middle layer and into there. And when the middle layer needs topping up, you top up from the top layer. And then when the top layer needs topping up, you top up from fresh rum. So you've got rum all the way going down. Solera aging is more in depth than that. You can talk about it. Don't think they're all constantly sort of layered on top of them. They'll probably be in separate warehouses, but that's essentially how Solera aging works. Some rum lovers hate it, some absolutely love it. I'm sit on the fence. I really like this rum, so therefore I've got to like Solera aging. The only other thing I can sort of tell you really about it is the sugar levels in here. I'm not sure whether this is official. I've seen this time and time again on different blogs, on the RumX app as well. 16 grams of sugar. I think that's pretty much a general consensus of that's it. So I'm not sure whether that's official or whatever. It's just kind of, that's what a lot of people are saying about this. So let's get on and do the tasting, the nosing. We start off with the nosing. I've already done this, so I can run you through very quickly what we're... Sorry, just a couple of quick things, just scrolling down. I don't want to forget anything. Sorry, my bad. Colour, start off with the RumX app. Treacle, that's what I've gone through. That's the colours that are on the app. Treacle, it's obviously a dark rum in colour. Price as well, Master of Malt, $34.95. All right, so just under £35. Shop around, you'll probably get it cheaper. Trade, you'll probably get it cheaper as well, but $34.95, standard price Master of Malt. Right, let's go on, nosing. On the old whiffs, on the old nostrils. Smells, oh, it smells so good. Yes, first thing out about, smelling that, I do think it's going to be sweet. And there's a lot of lovely sort of sweetness to it. But the nosing notes that I can give you, caramel, vanilla, dried fruits that turn into raisin. After a few seconds, the vanilla for me then turned into brown sugar. It was vanilla up front, and then it was like, oh, that's more brown sugar than it is vanilla. So I've got the brown sugar. Yes, there's a nod to the kind of the barrel aging in there, slightly sort of woody vibes going on. But right at the end, chocolate. I couldn't really pick up what sort of chocolate. I just got a chocolate kind of vibes going off at the end there. So really kind of lovely on the nose. So scores on the doors relating to RumX. As I say, I always add the sweetness in there. The rum, it's not on RumX, but I add it. I want a gauge of how sweet it's going to be. 3 out of 5 for sweetness. I think it's going to be a semi-sweet rum. Fruit levels, 3 out of 5. Floral, 1 out of 5. Spices, 2 out of 5. Woody oaky notes, 3. I don't think the wood outweighs the fruit. I think the fruit is there as much as the wood, and it's a lovely rounded wood, not a harsh peppery wood for me on the nose. And then roasted, 2, rounded, 2 out of 5. So that's the nostrils. I'll give you what other people have sort of scored this at the end. On the old tastings. Tasting, oh, this really took me back. I was just loving it. I can't believe I forget about this sort of stuff. It's just lovely. I mean, smelling, tasting. What can I taste? First hints, vanilla. Quickly turned into sort of the very first hit for me. I thought it was quite sweet, but it really went quickly. The sweetness kind of disappeared very, very quickly. It's actually not that sweet. The first sip is, but the finish definitely isn't that sweet. But you have got that nice, luscious sort of vanilla notes right at the top. Woody, spicy, caramel. I put raisin and then kind of an arrow, dried fruits. I couldn't specifically pick out raisins, that I think they are, but a kind of mixture of dried fruits. That's kind of Christmas cakey vibes. That's kind of what I get for now. It's a little peppery kind of vibe that sort of clings to your gums and down there. But again, on the finish, is chocolate. It's a subtle hint of chocolate going on in there. Really, really like that tasting. So scores, 3 out of 5 on the sweetness. I think that's fair. I wouldn't have gone 4, 100% wouldn't have gone 4. 3, 6 out of 10, 3 out of 5. I think that's fair, 3 out of 5 for sweetness. Fruit, again, 3 out of 5. Floral, not much going on, 1 out of 5. Spices, a little subtle nod in there to spices, 2 out of 5. Woody oaky notes, 2 out of 5. Roasted, 1 out of 5. Rounded, 2. I'm still toying whether to go up to a 3 for that, but I've settled on a 2, I think, because I do think it's quite rounded. The finish on it, I think I've had longer finishes, but I've definitely had shorter finishes as well to classify that as a medium. Medium long to long for me on the finish. There's vanilla there, there's nice sort of woody notes in there, the brown sugar comes out, but that chocolate note really does turn into like a dark cacao, a dark chocolate on the tasting. Still with that lovely element of sweetness without it being that sweet. So, yeah, really, really like that. And just to give you what other people have pulled out, and it's not, I've just quickly looked at this before I've pressed record on the video. It's not too much dissimilar here. There is one that I didn't pick out. So caramel, vanilla, barrel, raisin, fruits, chocolate, brown sugar, sweet, honey. Quite a few people have put honey. It's been tasted 117 times, I think, 117 times. And quite a few people put honey. I didn't get honey at all on the nose. It just wasn't there for me on the nose, but a few others are, so you might get a bit of honey. Tasting, caramel, woody, vanilla, alcoholic. It's rum. Of course, there's going to be a bit of alcohol there, but you know, it's not an ethanol bite to it at all. It's just rum. Chocolate, spicy, roasted, raisin, peppery. Agree with all of that. The caramel I kind of class as like brown sugar, if I'm being brutally honest. No one's put brown sugar, but for me, that's more brown sugar than it is caramel. All right, you can argue pretty much the same thing, but I'm talking when you've got a bag of brown sugar and you open it up, that's kind of what I remind me of. It doesn't remind me of caramel, reminds me of brown sugar. And then on the finish, pretty much the same, vanilla. Someone's got tobacco. I didn't really get tobacco, if I'm being honest. I don't smoke. I'm not a cigar smoker. I don't know, but quite a few people have got tobacco on the finish. Brown sugar is there, definitely on the finish. Dark chocolate is definitely there on the finish. So we are agreeing there out of 170. Now, this is where the scores change. So I've given you scores on the doors out of 100. I've given this 80. 80 out of 100. Now, to justify this for me, 70 to 79 is good. 80 to 89 is very good. Would I classify this as a good rum? No, I classify this as a very good rum. I really do like this rum. I can see why a lot of people, and I'll come on to this in a second, a lot of people classify this as pleasant, which is even the next one down, or it averages out at pleasant, I should say. But I know I'm going to have better rums, and I know once we go over the £50 budget, there are going to be better rums, which makes these sort of drop down, if you know what I mean. But I'm purely basing this on £50 rums and under. So, you know, I know full well I'm going to be drinking 70, 80, £90 rums that are a lot better than that. I know they are. But at the whole under 50, I think this is £50. I think it's a very, very good rum. Is it at the top end? Is it close to excellent? No. The reason I've sat at 80 is the bottom end to it being very good, but the top end of it being good. So it's right in that sort of boundary. So I'm kind of happy with that. But just to kind of give you the breakdown, this is average on 117 reviews. This is averaging 65 out of 100, which is pleasant, comes under pleasant. But this is the reason. So the majority of people have scored it in 60s to 69s, which is to say is pleasant. There are quite a few in the 70s, the 80s, and even in the 90s. There are quite a few people that love this. But this really does split people because there are also quite a few people that hate it. The lowest score is in the 20s. There's a few people that have scored it in the 20s. There's a few in the 30s, a few in the 40s. So once you've got that broad spectrum of scores, yes, it's going to take the average score down. It's not going to average a lot higher. So the whole reason I think it does sit in that pleasant is purely because of those lower, and I'm talking they're probably rum geeks, probably out and out rum geeks that have given out a 20. That is no way a 20 out of 100 rum. Absolutely no chance. It is if you're used to 100, 150 pound rums, but if you're used to rums under 50 pounds, there is no way that that is very poor. Absolutely no chance. I'm not having that. So if you're a rum geek, I understand it, but there's no way I would classify that as very poor. So that's why the spectrum is. So let's get on to the taste tests and then into the final thoughts. As always, let's start off with the two sort of mixers. Would I buy this for a rum and coke? Would I buy this for a rum and ginger ale? It's a £35 rum. Potentially, yeah, that's actually not a stretch too far. Rum and coke, really, really nice. I think this is probably more suited to rum and ginger beer, if I'm being really, really honest. Ginger ale doesn't do that any justice. I think it's more of a ginger beer. Dark rums potentially are ginger beer as opposed to ginger ale. But rum and coke, really happy with that. It's a really lovely rum and coke. Quite happily finished that. Maybe if I lengthened the ginger ale a little bit more, then it might be better. But I think it's more at home with ginger beer. Now, for the cocktails, Daiquiri, rum fashioned, rum punch. Daiquiri 621, not for me. I don't think it's a Daiquiri style of rum. It's certainly not a rum category that I would buy for a Daiquiri, those sort of dark blended rums. Definitely not Daiquiri rums for me. It's all right. It's going to have some lovers. It's just not for me. Rum fashioned, confession, did have to make this twice. I made it first off with sugar, tiny, tiny little drizzle of sugar, and it became too sweet. For me, so God knows what Diplomatico, God knows what Don Papa are going to be if you add sugar to them for me. I think they're going to be way, way too sweet because you're talking sugar levels double and higher of that. But just with ice and Angostura bitters, that is delicious, absolutely delicious. Rum, bitters, ice, no sugar, lovely, absolutely lovely. Really do like that. The star of the show for me, though, that's what I would potentially buy dark rums for, is the punch, the fun, fruity drinks. The 1, 2, 3, 4 ratio, 1 part sour, 2 parts sweet, 3 parts strong, 4 parts weak, and a dash of spice to make it nice. Lime, honey and strawberry, rum, passion fruit juice, Angostura bitters. That is delicious, and that is properly where I would sit that. If you weren't going to drink that, if you were looking at mixing it, that is purely where that rum sits. It's either sipping rum, which I absolutely adore as a sipping rum, rum fashions, or rum punch. Yes, it's a really, really nice rum and coke. I could get the same taste off a much cheaper rum in a rum and coke, but that is where I think it sits, neat or the rum punch. Quite happily finished that. So to sum up, would I restock it for £35 when that bottle finishes? Yes, even though I forget about it and kind of that's my bad, because if I do remember it, I want to drink it. It's a lovely, lovely rum. Yes, it's a little bit sweeter, but it's a lovely rum. Is it value for money? £35? Yes. £40? No. £40 makes me think, oh, that's a bit expensive. £35, I'm kind of thinking that's decent. That is really decent. For me. Now, are there any other rums that I would compare that to? Now, the fact that this is Solera aged means that in that category, it's completely different to your Myers, completely different to your Goslings. Of course, it's completely different to your Pussers Guyane, and, you know, sort of off those Port Morant stills as well, the wooden stills. So it's a huge, huge difference to Pussers. The closest rum I've got to that, and I'm not even going to discount Plantation OD as well, the closest rum I've actually got to that is the Rose Mullion for me. But again, very, very different, but in a similar kind of sort of end profile, if you like. I can't really explain it in my head, but that's the closest rum I've got to it. So yeah, would I restock that? 100% yes, I have to.